Start recording, Nikki.
Okay, and then before I'm going to appoint your Mary as the host, just so I can actually eat my lunch now. But
Okay.
yeah, I'll appoint one of you guys. One sec.
Mary does a good job.
She does. Mary. Okay, there we go.
Got it. Thanks, Nikki.
Welcome.
Very good. All right. 406, call the meeting to order. Mary, would you read the governor's remote policy?
Yes, this open meeting of the Nantucket, the Town Area Plan Work Group, a subcommittee of the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission, is convening by video conference pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. This meeting is being recorded. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. And this meeting will feature public comment if any members of the public are present and wish to speak. Henry, roll call.
Thank you. Yes. What do we got? Marcia.
Yes, hi.
Hi. What else we got? Lee?
Here.
Mary?
Here.
Nikki?
Here.
Allison?
Here.
Mary Ann?
Here.
And me. So the only one we are missing is Reagan. Okay. We have a quorum. Approval of the agenda. Any discussion? I take that as a no. Motion to approve.
I move, Mary Ann.
Mary Ann, second.
I'll second.
Mary, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Good, we got an agenda. Approval of the draft minutes for May 17th. Any discussion? Doesn't know. Okay, motion to approve.
So moved.
Mary, second.
Second, Mary Ann.
Mary Ann, second. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that's done. Now, Lee, you had an amendment to Marcia's?
I do, but I think to follow order, Marcia hadn't yet finished her presentation. And if she has more to say, I'll jump in when we get to this item 5.
Okay, that works for me.
Okay
Marcia.
with you, Marcia?
Yeah, it's fine with me, except you'll have to help me remember where I might have left off.
It was just before fertilizer.
Oh, so we're talking about natural and cultural resources. I don't know if you want to put up, it's like a 3-page. And I think we were in the latter section under goals and recommendations. So if we were just before fertilizer, we were on goal number 4, which is stated to encourage a study of the impact. We spoke a bit about climate change and rising seas upon the lands. I've listed water supply, wetlands and ponds, groundwater and stormwater management within the town area plan. I felt that that was an important goal to recognize that even though I don't believe our area has any coastline, but my understanding is that rising seas affect us all in terms of groundwater and a lot of other aspects of it with our wetlands and ponds. So are there any comments about goal number 4.
I think it's wise to put that in. Thank you, Marcia.
Yeah, my feeling, Marcia, is that we agreed with that. Certainly the groundwater level, the piezometric surface, follows the ocean, the mean level of the ocean.
Yeah, and so I think this goal number 4 and number 5, both of them, this is the component called natural and cultural resources. And so both goal number 4 and 5 are related to the upcoming project by the Land Bank for the restoration of the Lily Pond. And I know that I have attended one of their sessions, and I have lots of questions about that, but they definitely feed into goal number 4 and 5, and that is a cultural natural resource within our area. I guess the Lily Pond is separately listed in goal number 8. So I guess we could go on to goal number 5, which is where Lee's amendment comes into play, where Lee is including a reference to a document that I have not read. So if you have read it, that will help, because I'm
Marcia, I more than read it, I wrote it.
well, but in order for me to agree with it, I think I should read it. But
It's all 65 pages.
yeah, so I mean, it's not that I disagree. Best management practices, how does it get better than that?
Yeah.
But it definitely does not include one of the words that I have, which was elimination of harmful fertilizers. So maybe that is within the document, but to me, I like that up front and center.
Technically, Marcia, there is no such thing as a harmful fertilizer. There is, however, harmful applications of fertilizer, excess fertilizer in particular, or inappropriate timing of the fertilizer when the plants can't use it. So I'm all in favor of supporting the town's efforts to improve fertilizer enforcement. I just don't want to use the word harmful where it doesn't fit.
So could you give me a brief explanation and not 65 pages of why something that I have believed is harmful is not? And I that's just kind of what I've understood. There were fertilizers that were not supposed to be being used, and that's my limited understanding.
So the essential elements of fertilizer are 3 chemical elements: NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. It turns out that Nantucket soils are very rich in phosphorus. Excess phosphorus can lead to algal blooms in freshwater ponds, so that a Nantucket compliant fertilizer is relatively low in phosphate. If you buy a bag of fertilizer, it'll tell you that it is, let's say 10-10-10, 10% nitrogen, 10% available nitrogen, 10% available potassium, NPK, potassium, and phosphate, and 10% available potassium. That would not be Nantucket compliant. We then also have some synthetic fertilizers, the slow release fertilizers, that might be 25% available nitrogen and very low phosphorus. So it might be 25, 5, 10. And these get closer to Nantucket compliant. The Fertilizer Advisory Committee and now the Department of Health, in cooperation with Natural Resources, is trying to get the agricultural supply houses to push Nantucket compliant and hand everybody who buys a bag a set of instructions on how to use them. And so the goal is to have people understand that there is a series of regulations for the application of fertilizer, and they are in the town's regulatory regime. And then the best management practices is a guidance, which, by the way, Marcia, includes a chapter pushing native vegetation and also pushing a growth regime that eventually doesn't need fertilizer. But it doesn't rule out the cool season grasses, which are what we're familiar with in terms of most lawns, playground lawns, home lawns. And if one wishes to use cool season grasses, they will need fertilizer and they will need irrigation, but each in its own appropriate regime, not before April 15th, not after September something, and in small regular doses of fertilizer, not before a major rainstorm. Oh, there are various elements to that. Commercial appliers, commercial entities that apply fertilizer must have a license from the town and must demonstrate that they've taken training. That does not apply to people at home, us amateurs who apply fertilizer as needed. Okay, I'm going to stop here, Marcia.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I guess I'm wondering whether I should be including a brief sentence or two in that goal number 5 about what the adverse impact might be if we don't.
I thought I had, so let me pull mine up.
Yeah,
If-
I'm looking at yours. I don't see, it just says support the education, but
So Nantucket compliant. Okay, Marcia, what were you hoping to see in there?
oh, I'm just, as we speak, I'm just wondering because I don't think, in my report that I'm referring to what is the negative impact in our area when you do not use.
Yeah, there's a whole list of them in the best management practice.
Yeah,
Warm season grasses, blue stem, gamma grass. There's half a dozen of them, which is what tends to grow naturally as a grass. And then we get into some of the native shrubs like bearberry that grow very well out in the sand plants. I was looking for the word. In fact, because of the sheep that nibbled everything back, we have some of the largest natural areas of so-called grassland sand plains. Left alone, the shrub oak will start to invade, which is why the Land Bank and the Conservation Foundation will have their controlled burns of some of these, so that the grasses will continue to grow.
but that's not relevant to our area. So I'm thinking about it because when I did attend a session about the Lily Pond Restoration Project, and instead of seeing a larger lily pond coming into being, there were maybe 4 or 5 smaller areas. And when I asked about why we could not have Lily Pond as it was, or something more historically appropriate there, I was told it would have been because of the the fear of the algae blooms. And that just didn't seem it didn't
Yeah,
adequate for me because, you know, that's a huge resource within our area and it's about to get a whole lot of attention and a whole lot of funding. So why not, you know, I just didn't find that it was adequately researched historically for environmental assessment of the lily pond, or I didn't find the proposal to be very creative or researched, and certainly when it was fear-based, when you know all of your landowners around there, and if you need to do something for protecting the environment so that you don't get the algal blooms.
yeah.
So that's just an
The
example.
best management practices document, Marcia, was written with the assistance of some very fine experts in turf management and in fertilizer application. And they include protection against algal blooms. The challenge comes from excess fertilizer. And by the way, that includes certain composts, which are phosphate rich. Some of our seashell composts are very phosphate rich. And that's why Nantucket compliant is there. It's not just the lily pond. The document was written for all of Nantucket, including protection of our great ponds, whether Sacature Pond or Mayacomet Pond, where algal blooms have been a major problem.
So this component about natural resources, do we have another pond other than Lily Pond in our area? Does anybody know?
We have several, and I'm not quite sure whether Kansu, the so-called duck pond, is in our area or whether it's waterfront. We'd have to check that, but definitely the duck pond, where a lot of work is being done to clear the Phragmites out of it. We may have other watering holes of a much smaller nature.
Right. So I guess I'm just concluding that of all the different adverse impacts, algal blooms is one of them in the wetland pond areas that we do have. So I just may need to add something to goal number 5 in including your amendment. So, but I think we could probably move on to goal number 6, which references the Dark Skies Initiative bylaw. Number 7 reads, encourage and support the ongoing architectural and historical survey and its funding within the town area plan boundaries. That is something ongoing. And number 8, which has 4 examples, is to encourage the research for some of the resources that we do have that are not currently adequately researched. I put understood or developed, and I list the New Guinea neighborhood, Mill Hill and Coffin Parks, Lily Pond, and a timeline and a brief history of the development of the town area. And the last one, which
back you up just
Right.
a moment. Do I understand that you accept Amendment 5, or the Amendment 2.5? And if you do you need consent from the group?
yeah, well, I can, I'll make the change in here. I didn't know that the document as written is being,
Okay,
voted.
fine. I'm happy with that. You'll make the changes and incorporate.
Yeah, I'll make that change, and I think I'll make some reference to the adverse impact if we don't do this within our area.
I understand that misuse of fertilizer can lead to harm.
Yeah. Apparently it can lead to us getting a smaller pond too, at the lily pond.
There's something about freshwater ponds. They don't last forever.
Well,
Look, the the growth of wetlands around a pond will eventually cause it to shrink. So that's why from time to time we clean out our ponds.
well, I have a very expensive story to tell about that because I have one. I have one, and it's at least 120 years old, but yes, I have to clean it out. But the last time, the last time I cleaned it out, one of my neighbors who was not really happy about some resistance to one of their earlier projects flew a drone over my property as I was cleaning out and reported me to the Concom police.
Ah,
That cost me about $10,000 to clean out my pond that's always been painted on. And if you don't clean it out, exactly as you say, Lee, what happens?
it shrinks.
It's
By the
no
way,
longer a
Marcia,
pond.
I'm not quite sure of the legal reference, but the Civil Aviation Act limits flyovers on personal property
I
to
know.
be above a certain elevation.
Yeah, well, they did it and they got away with it. And
So this chappie was trespassing.
yeah, definitely. But yeah, I thought I was doing a good thing for the neighborhood because if you clean it out, you kind of like the lily pond, you get a greater retention basin to hold runoff to get.
Absolutely.
I mean, it just made sense. I'm not an environmental scientist, but anyway, I paid for that one.
Well, I'm delaying things, but I will just point out that the duck pond that I referred to, the one that's against the walking path of the old railroad embankment, has got real challenges in terms of a clean out because the base of that, the underwater base, the what am I going to try?
Muck.
The bottom of the pond
Yeah,
is filled with material that washed off Nantucket streets over the decades and may well have a lead content from when we had leaded gasoline, which is one of the reasons they being the town DPW and natural resources, haven't yet cleaned it out. They've been doing some work on it, getting rid of the Phragmites, but it'll be interesting to see what they do.
So could we put that to bed now? Because I know we've talked about it before. Is it or is it
Yes.
not in our area?
I just looked, it is in our area.
Oh, good. Because the other one that doesn't get any attention, I know we've listed it before, and I never remember the street, but it's another land bank property within our area that has a small, it should be a pond, but it's not been cleaned out. I think it's up on Grove Lane.
You're
Yeah, on
talking
Nim-
about the mill
yeah.
pond?
Where we used to ice skate when we were kids, Henry.
Yep.
A little one
Okay.
at the base of the hill.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always fighting for that one because it's a big area and the land bank doesn't do anything with it. And this pond becomes smaller and smaller.
Okay. So what's next?
So what's next is getting ponds back. See, that's what happened with the fertilizer, Lee, on goal 5. So we're up to goal 8, which is to talk about, I mean, the thing about this component is that our area is so rich with natural and cultural resources. It's kind of the reason for being I mean, it's so rich with it. So, but we tend to get very complacent and think we've all got this. So number 8 goal is to say, well, there are some things that we haven't given much attention to, whether it be the New Guinea neighborhood, the Lily Pond, or, you could add anything to that list. I just put 4 examples of things that we have, resources within our area that could use some more research, some attention. So I don't know if you think of any more yourselves.
Marcia, I would add Stone Alley to that.
Okay, I'll do that.
Is that public now? Or is it still
Sort of.
private?
Sort of. The
Yeah.
town has imposed a pedestrian easement on Stone Alley and has recently been cleaning it up. The town has taken responsibility for maintenance. So
So,
it is to, Virginia called Ginger Andrews' house. It is capable of being crossed by vehicles. Beyond the house, it's a pedestrian easement.
so I think that's a good one, Mary, because it makes me think about, are there other right-of-way roads? We've recently been going through some changes at Quarter Mile Hill, which used to be cobblestoned. Mickey's been working on that one too. The work was done. They took out all the cobblestones and now they put shell back in. And it is a private way. I don't know, it's not town, but I don't know that we have anything else like Stone Alley in our area. That's a right of way that we need to give more attention or protection to.
Marcia, you're closer to this than I am. The status of the walking path from Lily Street up the hill to either the church or Academy Hill apartments.
Right, that's an excellent one too. What do we
That's-
call that one?
It's Snake Alley.
Snake Alley. Whoa.
Thank you, Mickey.
Yeah.
I chased many a baseball down there.
That's a good one. Snake Alley.
My mom used to drop us off for school and at the bottom of Snake Alley, and so we would have to go up to get to school. That way she didn't have to drive into town.
That's awesome. So who owns it? Does Academy Hill own it or does the town?
It's a public way.
Just a public way. Well, that's a good one.
And if you wanted another one, Marcia, Coffin Park would be another area to mention.
So I have Coffin Park listed
You
in
do, okay.
goal number 8. I mean, that one I really feel needs a whole lot of attention.
Well, sometimes the attention that it needs is benign neglect so that it doesn't change. We have to be careful about saying something needs attention because people may feel that, okay, we need to start installing streetlights and granite curbing and asphalt parking places, and that's not what we want at all.
No, I would just like some maintenance because I always walk through it with my grandchildren and I always come out with a whole lot of ticks because it's so overgrown. There are walkways, but they're all completely overgrown. Just basic maintenance. That's all I would ask to start with. So, all right, so that's it. I did add a goal number 9, which was from an article that I reference, which I found very enlightening. It was an article that, for me, concluded that we should be considering our roadways as a cultural resource, not simply a corridor for vehicles, to allow it for multi-users. And that was a very different mindset to think about. And I know that falls into the circulation component, but to me, when I see the street in front of me, that was closed for 5 months, but then when it really hits the season right now, it's really not a roadway for cars. And therein lies some of our issues because it's filled with all sorts of pedestrians and carriage and bicycles, and it's more for them than it is for cars. And I think it just changes our level of frustration to say, oh, it's really nice to see 25 people in my road, moving around and a few cars struggling. So,
Marcia, the town subscribes to a program endorsed by the state. And I'll have to double check, but I think it's called the Complete Streets Program, because the Complete Streets reflects on the fact that it's for pedestrians and bicycles and also street view. The street opens up the views of properties and so forth. When I write the minutes, I'll double check, but I'll just make a note to myself, Complete Streets.
yeah, that would be good. And I think for all of us to think about what those implications are. Because when I read this article, there were thoughts, instead of just doing close Main Street for stroll or daffodil weekend, think about other ways to close off a street periodically for people, just other uses that acknowledge that it's not just for cars, it's really for the people that live here. So I think it would be very creative to come up with other ways to use and acknowledge the use of the street instead of most of us, like right now, getting really, really annoyed and frustrated with trying to maneuver a car.
Lee, Complete Streets is the correct name of the policy.
Right.
Sorry, Mary, what was that?
You're correct. Complete Streets is the name of the policy.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, but that's not a policy that we have in Nantucket.
Yes, it is. We've adopted that policy.
And so how does it manifest for us?
The transportation planner, when he is recommending improvements, uses the principles in that policy to design them.
Hmm.
Give Mike Burns a call, Marcia, if you want to learn more about it.
You
Yeah.
can talk to him Tuesday if you want.
Yeah.
Yes, right, right. Yes, I would. I'd like to learn more about.
I told him there would be questions.
There would be questions. Well, I'd like to learn more about I don't see any changes or manifestation. So, when, like any of our streets downtown, I don't think he's going to be addressing them, is he, for changes?
Well, he just got back in the job, so he's got a lot to catch up on, Marcia, but I'm sure that he would be interested in your ideas.
Yeah, well, I'd be interested in all of your having ideas about that, if it's something you feel is a good thing or not. I put it in as Cole 9, but it doesn't mean that it's important to any of you.
Remember, Mike doesn't have the final say on it. He recommends. It's got to go through the select board.
Yeah.
So don't kill the messenger.
No, I'm just asking for feedback from you all. I'm not talking about Mike. Like, do you all feel that that's something to put into this plan?
I think we've wanted to make a statement in the plan that we endorse the Complete Streets policy and its goal of making streets available to all kinds of users. I think that's perfectly appropriate.
I haven't read the entire policy, but Mike has mentioned it a lot during discussions at traffic safety. So I think it's a good thing for us to include, but maybe we do want to perhaps circulate it so we can review it individually.
I think we also sort of in a roundabout, pardon the pun, way are endorsing it because the circulation component supports the long-range transportation plan, which is based in part on the Complete Streets policy. So it's not ignored, but it doesn't hurt to call it out if there's specific interest in it, and I think there is.
All right.
Anything else, Marcia?
I think that that concludes what I guess I started a while ago. And all I would say about finalizing is that I know, Henry, that you mentioned that we were going to discuss formatting. So I would be the first to say that in formatting any of ours, that I believe, like, mine right now begins with a list, and then it goes on to goals and recommendations. I think that all of our components in terms of formatting, like, I think that on mine, I should write a brief paragraph or two that gives somebody who knows nothing about Nantucket, assume that we're not talking to one another, where I describe what are the natural and cultural resources in a paragraph, like the existing, so that somebody who knows nothing about Nantucket say, oh, I understand, in terms of the entire island, whatever I might say, I think I should have an opening introduction to what natural and cultural resources are in terms of formatting, to introduce anybody who's reading our document to be familiarized with that specific component.
I would just encourage you to remember keep the focus on the area that we're talking about, not necessarily the entire island. So
Oh,
just so
no.
we can keep it brief too.
Right, I'm gonna refer you back to the master plan outline. If you can find that. Item 5, natural and cultural resource element, which provides an inventory of the significant natural, cultural, and historic resource areas of the municipality and policies and strategies for the protection and management of such areas. That's a good way to start. And then instead of just giving bullet points, we should be changing this so we can submit it to NP and EDC. Try and keep it concise, to our area. It's fine to refer to other things, but, try and get it nailed down. We don't need 100 pages. Does that make sense? Am I on mute?
Yeah, I didn't think I was saying otherwise on this particular one, but yes.
I know it's tough. There's a lot in our area. Okay, anybody else?
I just like to ask a question of the group. Henry asked for and received a whole, don't want to call it a summary, an inventory of all of the properties within our area. And I'm not sure if there's anything we can or should do. It's like, lots and lots of information. Does anyone think of any use for going through this voluminous amount of material? Anything that we can deduce from this? But I just want to throw it out there. We do have this inventory of all the properties within our area.
Well, I would love to see it.
Well, it's easy enough, I think, to share it with everybody. I'm just wondering if there's anything that we can elicit from this.
Well, I know that when Mickey and I were working on the housing, we really were wanting a lot more information to work with. So I don't know what's in there, but I would assume that that would be most useful.
So I guess, Henry, maybe it would be worth just sharing it with everybody, and that gives everybody a chance to think about it and look at it in more detail.
Yeah, go ahead, send it out.
Okay.
Marianne, your question poses a separate one, but sort of related. And it's our survey. I'm going to ask Mary Longacre, what do you think we should be doing with the survey results?
So we need to deliver the detailed responses to NP and EDC, as well as the summary, remember all the graphs and such that I produced. And Henry, since we have a shared drive, I'll post them up there. That's probably the easiest way to do that. But yeah, if there's anything that somebody wanted to dive into in that survey data, you certainly have that opportunity.
So what was your suggestion on just on the summary?
Are you asking me, Lee? I'm not following the question.
I thought you wrote up a summary of the survey.
I wouldn't call it a summary. I would call it
Notes, it was working
Yeah.
notes.
yeah, it wasn't, I mean, it was not short. You know, that I was trying to get insights from the survey data. So I was writing up what I saw as insights from that.
Okay, well, your suggestions for whatever it is we do, it may just be a very brief note that the survey results have been tendered to MPDC, or survey results were incorporated in each of the goal statements. Something.
Does it make sense to include the survey with our final report?
Yes, at least the compilation of results should be included. And then all the detail is available from NP and EDC once we give it to them.
Cool.
Okay. Anybody else?
So I want to make sure that people are aware my term on NP and EDC ends June 30th, and it is ending. So I will no longer be the NP and EDC rep in this group.
Do you know who is?
That on Monday, we're meeting to fill that at-large seat. And then in July, we'll have the committee assignment. So something will happen at the July meeting to assign somebody.
You've been a stalwart, Mary, and you're welcome to stay. We're begging you to stay as an at-large member.
Yeah.
I would hope so.
I'd like to add to that. Yes, definitely stay.
Please.
Well, thank you all. I don't know yet either the logistics or the practicality of that for me. I'm putting a lot more effort in at work, so I have less free time available.
Well, we are going to finish sometime, Mary, but we wish you to be on the finish line with us.
Well, I suspect that Henry will organize a small subgroup that'll be tasked with writing and editing.
Well, tell me, because I understand that all of us that are on this group had a process of approval to be on the group. So is it not appropriate for Henry to request that you stay on with us?
I think that, you know, if I'm available to do that, that would be the way that it would be handled, yes.
It's unanimous, Mary.
Do I get a vote, Henry?
Oh, you already did. Okay. Who is next up? Okay, I'll go up next time. Open space and rec, that should be pretty quick. I think, Lee, you had everything Accept the map,
Henry, do I have everything what?
except for the map. I think that got misplaced. I had Nathan drop a map of everything for open space and rec. I've got a copy, I'll get it to you.
Okay. If it was produced, I have it.
It's just a question of locating it, I understand.
I think you and I may need to meet independently and assess each of the submissions to whether or not it can be accepted as it is, or whether we could ask the subcommittee to do something like write a little introduction.
Okay. I'll get with you after the meeting sometime and we'll get it worked out.
Okay. I've got
All right.
family July 4th week. That's from June 29th up to July 6th or 7th.
Okay. We'll get it done.
Good.
All right, has anybody else got anything? All right, I have 4:52. Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Mary,
Second.
second
Allison.
Allison, all in favor, aye,
Aye.
and thank you, everyone. And thank you, Mary.